Hello, buddy. All right, welcome to the Mikestand. Welcome to this very special edition of the Mikestand. Welcome to this very special edition of the special late edition of the Mikestand, due to the fact, of course, that you know how sometimes you have some of those days where you kind of just feel like you're dragging a little bit. Just one of those days where I kind of got caught up in some stuff in my head, and then you know, and then just and so just kind of got behind, and then of course had some other stuff come up that I had to deal with. You might notice my room's a little brighter. That's because one of the things I had to do today, of course, was put some new light bulbs in. Actually, my sister did that for me. I appreciate her for that. Anyways, with that being said, if you haven't already, if you guys can help out by liking and sharing the stream, see if we can get some more friendly people to engage. That'd be appreciated. Also, if anything here grabs your attention, feel free to comment and or ask questions, and I will try to answer the questions to the best of my ability. With that being said, we're just again we're going to give people a chance to come in before we get started. Before I start talking about what's going down on tonight's show. So yeah, as I said, it just was one of those days where I kind of got up and just got so caught up in something I was thinking about that was kind of just dragged on. So anyways, so yeah, so now it looks like 2.5 minutes. Maybe we'll wait just again, one last friendly reminder before we do get started here. If you haven't already, if you guys can help out by liking and sharing the stream, see if we can get some more friendly people to engage. That'd be appreciated. Also, if anything here grabs your attention, feel free to comment and or ask questions, and I will try to answer the questions to the best of my ability. That goes for both my Rumble and my YouTube viewers. With all that being said, we're just about to the. So here's what's on tap for tonight. I have a couple articles I'm going to go over tonight, both from Bounding in the Comics. We're going to hear a little bit more from Scott Snyder's. He had some interesting comments yesterday on some stuff been talked about in terms of what people are looking for in terms of what they want from comics. He had some more to say on some other topics here, including the idea of the type of stories that readers are wanting. Plus, we got some commentary from Tomohiko Ito, the director of Sword Art Online. He's pointing out how anime has made a lot of significant gains, but also that he's also, again, another voice coming out, as we were talking about last week, about the idea of trying to cater to this global audience idea. So anyways, plus we'll get all caught up on all the latest in professional wrestling, look back to last night's Dynamite, look ahead to, of course, tonight's TNA and Ring of Honor. Of course, tonight's TNA episode is the last one that will be on Access TV, as 1 week from today they are moving to AMC. So Thursday Night Impact will be debuting on AMC next Thursday. I do need to step away from the computer for a moment. I'll be right back. Oh, I'm gone, and then of course we'll wrap things up with this day in each history. I'll be right back. I'm back. So let's get ready to get into the material here. Get into the articles here now as we're coming up on 6 minutes here. So good time to get going on the material here. And of course, the first article we're going to look at here is this one right here. I'll bring that up. Absolute Batman scribe Scott Snyder says readers really want stories that feel urgent, quote unquote, and, quote, speak to the hardships that people are facing right now, unquote. Article by Spencer McCooley, published yesterday. Now, granted, this is kind of adding on to what he was talking about yesterday, how they didn't necessarily want everything to be so, so linked to one huge world or one big story arc. But let's see what he has. Let's see what he has to. Let's see what he has to. What more he has to say on the matter here. So, in giving a personal read of the current comic book market, Absolute Batman writer Scott Snyder says that rather than rehashed in smaller quotes greatest hits plot lines, endless streams of variant covers, or cinematic universe synergy, what readers are truly hungry for are stories that are, quote, about this moment, unquote. So I think he's really nailing in the idea of episodic storytelling, which we've been talking about a lot the last couple weeks here in a few of the articles we've been reading, on both, Bleeding Fool and here at Bounding into Comics. Let's see. So, taking the opportunity in smaller quote year in review edition of his personal newsletter to offer some forward-looking advice to any and all of his fellow comic book creators, the veteran DC writer argued that the key to finding modern sales success, quote, whether it's a DC pitch, whether it's a creator-owned book, is that you have got to meet the market where it is right now, unquote. Quote, I read so many books coming out from creator-owned spaces that feel like this is a book that could have launched at Boom in 2012 or at Vertigo in 2009 or 2015. It doesn't feel like it's urgent, or it doesn't feel like it's about this moment, or that it was a book you had to write right now. It feels like a passion project that you've had in the back of your head for a long time. And here's the thing, 100% I love those books, and I think they should exist and you should publish them. But what I'm seeing from a lot of creators is the bewilderment as to why those books aren't doing as well as they used to in some way. Quote, what I'm trying to say is that it's a really particular moment in the market right now. And what I would say to you is you have to meet it if you're looking for competitive sales. Not if you're looking to sell 10,000 copies, which again, I have done books like that. I love doing books like that. I love doing books that are personal to me and that I've had in my head for a long time, even if they are about the moment in my own way, and they're all about something urgent that I understand are not designed for the market to sell right now, unquote. Quote, That's a big part of being a creator, is experimenting and doing books that maybe you know are not going to fit, but that are just your passion project. But what creators keep asking me is like, quote, why isn't my book selling? Unquote. Or, quote, why isn't this right for this moment? Unquote. Um, and a lot of the time, what I'd say to them back is just like, in smaller quotes, is this your biggest swing? Is this the thing that feels like you're speaking to fans and saying, this book has to exist right now? Unsmaller quote. uh, Moving to provide some concrete examples of this philosophy in action, Snyder turned to DC and Marvel's respective villain led reimaginings, in smaller quotes, of their core universes. Um, in doing so, also explaining that his call to, in smaller quotes, meet the moment, in smaller quote, was not exclusively centered on the political chaos currently unfolding across the globe, but also more minor personal struggles being endured by the average individual. Quote, for better or worse, like the absolute universe, what I'm so excited about with them is that they all feel really urgent. You know, you might not like their politics, but they are designed to make these superheroes feel immediate and exciting and bigger than life, but in a moment that speaks to the hardships and the things people are facing right now. They're meant to be even more heroic and inspiring as underdogs. And I think that's true of what was happening in brackets Marvel's Ultimate Universe. As well, I think Jonathan Hickman and Marco Cicchetto's Ultimate Spider-Man speaks to what a lot of people are feeling as struggling young families right now, and that's great, unquote. Ultimate Spider-Man, of course, which is having the story where Peter and Mary Jane are actually, they're showing Peter as kind of a little bit older. He and Mary Jane actually have kids. Peter, outside of his costume identity, he's doing more the um, more the family man kind of thing. Hey, Mel, thanks for dropping in. Yeah, but both Absolute DC and Ultimate Marvel suck. uh, well, I mean, I think there are some good points that, like I said, I think a lot of people like the whole Spider-Man and Mary Jane, the fact that they're together and they're raising a family. I think that is probably one of the more appealing factors of Ultimate Spider-Man, at least. Because I know a lot of people are craving for Peter and Mary Jane to be brought back in the main universe. Um, but as such, in case you didn't hear me earlier, the reason I'm going late tonight is because I was just kind of dragging myself today and was running a little behind on a lot of things. So I had a couple other things pop up too. So, anyways, um, back to the article here. Uh, that's a bandage I don't want some alternate Peter and Mary Jane together. I want the actual Peter and Mary together. Good point. I think for a lot of more traditional, old traditional comic book fans, I think they share your sentiment there, Metal. That's what I'd imagine. Yeah, you're probably right. It probably is it's probably a bandage or just kind of as a way. Well, yeah, we'll give it to you, but we're not going to give it to you in the main universe. We'll put it off in this little pocket universe for all you people. You people can go dive into that pocket universe while we just totally wipe our butts on the main universe. So anyways, getting back to the article here. Quote, so my point is just like Transformers feels urgent. It has art that feels urgent. Daniel Warren Johnson and Jorge Corona, and these guys that aren't safe artists, and mashing that together with G.I. Joe is cool and exciting. It's never been done. So why not? Well, that part's not exactly granted. G.I. Joe and Transformers has crossed over in the past. I mean, even going as far back to when they both, the cartoons first came out in the early 80s, back in the 80s there, when, you actually had, when they did kind of reveal that, like in season 3 of Transformers, for example, Marissa Fairborn's parents, they outright said that Flint was her father, Flint, aka Dashiell Fairborn, and they pretty much implied that Lady J, Allison Hart Burnett, was probably her, was most likely her mother. So, and then I think on a season 3 episode of G.I. Joe, they actually had Transformers on. They actually had what were they depicting Transformers like on TV or something like that. So, anyways, getting back to the article here. So why not? And The Last Ronin and these books are they're trying things that haven't been tried. I'm saying that there are too many creators that pitch something that feels like it could have existed 15 years ago, and then expect that thing to compete in a tough market right now. And what I'm saying is not don't do those books in smaller quotes, but do those books, but you can't then turn around and say, quote, why isn't this book selling like Nightwing? Unquote. Unquote. That's what I hear too much. Excuse me a moment. I gotta check something real quick. I'll be right back, but I'm gonna put some music on for you guys real quick. All right, I'm back. Sorry about that. Just had to double check something here. And my sister just got back, so I was checking in. So, anyways, back to the article here. Let's see. Winding down his thoughts, the man behind DC's best-selling title in years ultimately affirmed, quote, that awareness of the market is key going into this year for aspiring freighters, unquote. Quote, you've got to look at the market and be like, quote, what's my biggest swing right now? What's my biggest tent book? What is the thing that I can do that says this hasn't been done? This hasn't been done. It has to exist. It's dangerous. It's urgent. Unquote. That's the market right now. Thanks to the article here. Quote, my biggest advice to creators out there is like, don't turn around and blame the market. Don't blame the books that are doing well. Take a look and think like this market is scary, but it's thrilling. It is tough and competitive, but it's also corrective to a lot of years of inflated sales because of streaming, because of variant covers, because of all kinds of things like COVID money, um, TV interest, corporate support, all kinds of stuff that is going away. And that means it's a tougher market, it's corrective, and it's competitive, and it's scary. And I wish that every creator owned book sold 100,000 copies, but in this market, you're lucky if you sell 20 to 30,000. Very lucky. That's what you're facing. But that also is exhilarating in its own way. As hard as it is, it's exhilarating because it means it's a market where books are overperforming when they take a big swing. You've got you've got a hungry, excited comic book audience. Wow, that looks like the well, that's supposedly Diana there, but looks more like the green flame or fire. Per data collected by Worldwide American Comic Sales, tracking system Comic Hub, and presented by industry news outlet ICV2, the Ultimate and Absolute books dominated the charts in 2025, with DC's Endeavor in particular regularly taking up the majority of each month's report. But well, this kind of contradicts something we read within the past week, where they were talking about, or at least I guess the top 9 books. Like I think for the most part, like 6 or 7 of the top 9 spots were taken by DC. So, anyways, as such, while debates, some informative and others woefully ignorant, will naturally unfold around how to best apply Snyder's advice, it cannot be argued that he's on to something significant. All right, so there we go with that one. Oh, now we'll get ready to move on to the next article. pull this up in a moment here. It's lucky if I sell 20 books. Yeah. Or I'm lucky if I sell 20 books. Yeah. Anyways, so we'll get ready to move on to this story is more anime related. And again, friendly reminder to everybody: if you got first off, you guys haven't already, you guys can help out by liking and sharing the stream. See if we can get some more friendly people to engage. That'd be appreciated. Also, if anything grabs your attention, feel free to comment and or ask questions, and I'll try to answer the questions to the best of my ability. So, with that being said, here we go with the next article we're gonna do. Probably the only other one we're gonna do tonight. 27. Sword Art Online director thinks anime making significant gains on Hollywood, but warns that pandering to global audiences, quote, often leads to failure. Now, again, this is something, of course, we talked a lot about in the last couple of weeks, too. We heard, of course, from Hideaki Anno on this matter, like last week. Now we've got, and the Sword Art Online director who they're talking about here is apparently Tomohiko Ito. So, article by Spencer McCulley published today. So, let's go ahead and take a look at this. Though he's both aware and proud of the anime medium's overseas popularity explosion, Sword Art Online director Tomohiko Ito is pushing back against the growing notion that the Japanese creators should pointedly pander to international audiences, and he believes his path, quote, quote, often leads to failure. Yeah, and I can understand the reasoning why. I mean, you think about it, if you pander to just this very loud vocal minority and just kind of ignore the fans that got you there, you ignore the girl that, or you ignore the person that brought you to the dance in the first place, it's not going to end well. So. Ito, who oversaw both seasons of Sword Art Online as well as the first film, Ordinal Scale, added his thoughts to the ongoing debate about the future of anime during a recent industry-centric interview given to Japanese news outlet Daily Shincho. Asked for his thoughts on his favored medium's rapid rise among international audiences, particularly those in America, the director opined, as machine translated by Deepel, quote, just recently there was news that Toho acquired a British anime distribution company. Since Aniplex bought Crunchyroll in 2020, I get the impression that Japanese anime has exploded globally, unquote. Quote, with factors like the writer's strike a few years ago and the impact of COVID-19, Hollywood films seem to have lost some of their power, unquote, he added. Quote, I think Japanese anime has effectively filled that gap, unquote. Let's see. I'm just waiting to see if Metal will have any. Well, maybe Metal will save whatever comments he has on this topic for his show tonight. First time the Vonatorium's been back on, I guess, in a couple of nights here. But anyways, let's continue with the. continue with the article here. On the topic of global impact, Ito was then pressed as to whether or not he personally subscribed to the idea of, in smaller quotes, globalizing anime's creative intent, to which the director declared, quote, on the contrary, focusing too much on the world, in smaller quotes, the world, often leads to failure. Quote, what Japanese people think will be popular globally probably won't appeal to people overseas. In America, where political correctness is strict, they might think, in smaller words, is Japan still making the kind of shows where girls fight with lots of skin, the kind that would be met with suspicion in North America, unquote. Oh yeah, it's funny that I think he's on to something there. That's quite an intuitive observation there, my friend, Mr. Ito-san. Quite an astute observation. Let's see what Metal has to say here. I'm probably not doing the talk show until Friday. Been a busy week, and I have to be out tonight as well. I might chill on stream while working on comic stuff. That would be even later. I don't have much more to say on this though. I've already exhausted most of my thoughts that on that matter. All right. And I understand that. I was just thinking that maybe you might have had something you might have wanted to add to Ito's comments here. I mean, I know you and I both talked quite a bit about Ano's comments on the matter. I just thought maybe like what I just noticed here, what he just said there was I thought was pretty intuitive. So pretty intuitive and very, very astute observation. Anyways, back to the article itself. However, Ito did admit there was one element of overseas anime marketing he hoped to see both expanded upon and adopted domestically. Better recognition of a given work's actual production staff. Quote, regarding the world and Demon Slayer Kimetsu no Yaiba, the movie Infinity Castle, I wish more light would be shed on the internal staff. Director Haruo Sodosaki rarely gets introduced domestically, yet he's recognized abroad. Recently, I heard from a Chinese acquaintance that he did a stage greeting with the film's cinematographer, Yuichi Teraro, to coincide with the Chinese release. Now, I can see that too. I mean, here in the States, we do have a tendency more. I mean, we will acknowledge. We'll not only we'll acknowledge not only the producers and the voice actors and all that, but we'll also acknowledge the directors, the artists. I mean, you've seen many credits for like background artists and all that. I don't like Sao, but he didn't write light novels. Only he did not write the light novels. Only adapted them. So he's not to blame for that, and he's light about what he is saying. Light? Don't you mean right? I guess you must have missed a letter. However, Ito did admit. Oh, okay. Actually, we just read that. Quote, for the sake of those aspiring to work in anime in the future, I hope the history of who did what is preserved. Director Toga is the director of the top two highest grossing Japanese films of all time in Demon Slayer Kimetsu no Yaiba, the movie Mugen Train, and Infinity Castle. Don't you think people would like to know a bit more about him? Since these works are hitting it big overseas too, I wish they'd feature more than just the voice actors. Unquote. Ito's next work, an anime film adaptation of the first entry of Keigo Higashino's Kuzunoki no Banin series of novels, is currently set to hit Japanese theaters at the end of the month. That's something else to look forward to. Alrighty then, so there we go. That's all we were gonna do for the um, this is my entertainment time. Typos are not my concern. I figured as much. Yeah. Um. Anyways, I still knew what you meant, even if it was a typo. So not that big of a deal. All right. So, anyways, so that's all we got for the That's all we got for the articles tonight. So now we'll get ready to move on to the next portion of the show, which is the wrestling wrap up. We do have quite a bit of stuff that happened on last night's AEW Dynamite, as well as looking ahead to tonight's TNA and Ring of Honor shows. So on tonight's or on last night's AEW, so last night's Dynamite, AEW Dynamite, took place at the Box Center in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and saw the return to the broadcast booth of Jim Ross, alongside, of course, Excalibur and Tony Schiavone. The opening match saw in a Continental title eliminator match, in which, if in this case the challenger Shelton Benjamin had won the match, he would have, if he had actually won the match or lasted the time limit, he would have earned a shot at the Continental belt as worn by Jon Moxley. It got pretty close at 1956. Jon Moxley fended off the challenge of Shelton Benjamin in a six-man tag match. Originally slated to be Jack Perry and Jet Speed before they were attacked earlier in the evening, set to take on the demand of AEW National Champion Ricochet and the Gates of Agony of Bishop Khan and Toa Leona. Jack Perry was joined by the Young Bucks, Matt and Nick Jackson, to take on the demand and won the match. In a non-title match, Ring of Honor World Champion Bandito defeated Sammy Guevara in 11:42. In a women's match, Toni Storm defeated Shafir by DQ. And in a lights out tag team match, Adam Page and Swerve Strickland defeated the Ops duo of Hook and Powerhouse Hobbs. Now, some other things of note that happened on last night's Dynamite as well included seeing the return of Andrade after all the legal mess he was in terms of the non-compete clause with WWE. Of course, coming fresh off of his participation at Wrestle Kingdom last week, he made his return to AEW alongside the Don Callis family. And also, it saw the debut of Jake Doyle. Don Callis family added another member to the family with Jake Doyle, known in TNA as Jake something. Now, I haven't heard too much about this. I had heard kind of some rumors that Jake Doyle's contract with TNA was about to run out, but I don't know if that is the case. But apparently, he did make his debut here in AEW. So, well, I'll just wait and see how that all pans out. Now, moving ahead to stuff going on for tonight, on tonight's TNA Impact and Ring of Honor shows. Oh, I guess. Actually, okay, so I think all we got here are TNA Impact. They don't have any. Oh, I'll have to double check that. Tonight's total nonstop action, the last on Access TV, as I said earlier, they'll be moving to AMC next week, 1 week from today, from the El Paso County Coliseum, El Paso, Texas, with Tom Hannafan and Matthew Ringwald on commentary. Tonight's TNA will have Danny Luna taking on Harley Hudson in a singles match. Channing Lorenzo is set to defend the international title against Steve Macklin, the former champ. And then in an 8-man tag match, Prime Cedric Alexander, TNA X Division champion Leon Slater, the youngest in charge, and the current TNA World Tag Team champions, the Hardy Boys, the Hardys, Jeff and Matt Hardy, will be taking on the System in 8-man tag with, of course, Brian Myers, Eddie Edwards, JDC, and Moose. So that's all set to go down tonight. Let me just see something here. Try to there is going to be a I guess they just haven't put it up yet. So anyway, so that's all we got for the wrestling wrap up then. Hello, we got some more Impact. Yeah, Impact is moving to AMC next week there, Raul. Hey, Vitchozo. Again, a friendly reminder to everybody, if you guys haven't already, if you guys can like and share the stream, see if we can get some more friendly people to engage, that'd be appreciated. Also, if anything here grabs your attention, feel free to comment and or ask questions. I'll try to answer the questions to the best of my ability. Of course, also, TNA will be having its Genesis pay-per-view next Saturday, the 17th. We'll talk more about that as we also tomorrow we'll talk about what happened on tonight's Impact. If Ring of Honor does have a show on tonight, we'll also talk about that. Look ahead to tomorrow night's SmackDown, and look ahead to this Saturday's Collision as well. But But with all that being said, now that we're done with the wrestling wrap up, now with today being, of course, Thursday, January the 8th, 2025, or 2026 rather, let's take a look back at this date in each history. History! So 1951, 2001, 2006, or 2016, 2016. All right. All right, so first off, we're going to head back 75 years ago. And on this date, 75 years ago today, back in 1951, with, of course, Sheena on the cover there, the 145th issue of Jumbo Comics from Fiction House went on sale on this date back in 1951, sold for 10 cents, was 48 pages. Now imagine that. Imagine spending only 10 cents to get that lovely lady to look at. That I would say is pretty cool. Wouldn't you guys say so? Alrighty then. Oh, anyways, so that happened 75 years ago. So now getting ready to move on to the next piece of niche history as we move ahead to the year 2001 on this date 25 years ago today. On this date 25 years ago today, back in 2001, one of the last, of course, Nitro shows to happen. This particular Nitro show was the Go Home Nitro before Sin that year, the Sin pay-per-view. WCW held this Monday Nitro from the Excels Energy Center in St. Paul, Minnesota. The main event saw Scott Steiner with Medeja retain the WCW World Heavyweight Championship in a match over Jeff Jarrett. In a Minnesota Massacre Last Man Standing four-way match, Chuck Palumbo versus Diamond Dallas Page and Kevin Nash defeated Sean O'Hare. Okay, so whatever all that meant. Dwayne Bruce and Goldberg defeated Chronic in just under 4 minutes. Let's see. Billy Kidman alongside, of course, with Conan, Rey Mysterio Jr. and Tigress defeated Lance Storm with Elix Skipper, Major Guns, and Mike Awesome of Team Canada in 407. The night opened up with cruiserweight action in just under 6 minutes. Chavo Guerrero Jr. defeated Shannon Moore in and yes, that is a guy. Shannon Moore is a guy. Yes, there can be some guys with the name Shannon. So, with that being said, so yeah, 25 years ago, WWE held its Go Home Nitro before its Sin pay-per-view that week. So now, getting ready to move on to the next piece of niche history as we move ahead to the year 2016, 10 years ago today. On this date, 10 years ago today, the second season of Steven Universe premiered on Cartoon Network. Shannon is a very strong, common, masculine name in Celtic culture, much like Kelly, right? I know Shannon is also used a lot as a last name, too. So, But anyways, 10 years ago today, the second season of Steven Universe premiered on Cartoon Network. And as such, moving on to the last piece of Needs history, 2016. It was just so nice that we're gonna hit it twice. It's also on this date 10 years ago today, back in 2016. Shaft's Kizu Monogatari Part 1 Taketsu premiered in Japanese theaters on this date 10 years ago. Title translates as Kizu Monogatari, Blood and Iron. The first in a trilogy, followed by Kizu Monogatari Neketsu Kin and Kizu 2, Part 2, and Kizu Monogatari 3, Raiketsu Han is it is part of the Monogatari series. So with that, I do thank everybody for being here tonight. Hope everybody enjoyed the show. Of course, we'll be back here with more Niche News tomorrow. Don't forget this Sunday. And I will be back hopefully at regular time tomorrow. I just as I mentioned earlier, just had one of those days where I just kind of dragged on a little bit, got behind, and that's why I didn't start till late tonight. Bye everybody. Bye. So though, thanks for popping in. Anyways, this and of course this Sunday I'll be joined by Sabrina from Monogatari means story, fable, or legend. I was aware of that because I've seen a number of titles with the name Monogatari in them. So I was aware of that. But thank you for your input there, Metal. For those who maybe didn't know, that's always appreciated. Anyway, so as I said, I'll be back here tomorrow with more Niche News. Probably I'll be, one of the things I've been thinking about doing is, rotating through Bounding into Comics, Bleeding Fool, and That Park Place Monday through Thursday, and then on Friday going over the stuff from MeTV Toons, as that stuff seems to be a bit more sporadic, the cartoon stuff. So I think a Friday would be a good day to cover those articles. So, and then of course, as I said, this coming Sunday, I'll be joined by Sabrina from Devil Flyer Momentum. We'll be going over books that went on sale in July 1940 from Lev Gleason. We'll be actually introducing you guys to a new character. We'll be introducing you guys to Lev Gleason's version of the Daredevil, not to be confused with Marvel Comics Daredevil. So with that, I thank everybody for being here, and I hope to see everybody back here tomorrow.